Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about protein for athletes. This is a much misunderstood area of nutrition for athletes. First of all, we need to understand the roles of protein. What are we using protein for in the body? Protein is being used for repair, repairing tissue damage, for your immune system, to make sure your immune system can function optimally, for long-term recovery from training, for training adaptations like improving muscular strength and muscular endurance, and for decreasing soreness after workouts. We need to know a couple of things with regard to protein. We need to know how much protein do we need, and when should we consume that protein. So let's dive deeper into both those topics. The first thing we need to do after ingesting protein is to digest that protein. And when the process of digestion occurs, protein foods are we intake protein foods, chew them, and proteins in the foods we're digesting will be broken down into separate amino acids. This occurs starting in the mouth with mastication and chewing, then in the stomach where the protein meets an acid environment and the proteins are denatured and opened up so enzymes can go into into those spaces and clip the proteins into amino acids. Digestion further occurs where proteins are enzymatically digested in the intestines, and then they're absorbed, passing the liver and then into the bloodstream, and the amino acids are starting to circulate around the body, where they'll circulate to your muscle cells, where they can be used for protein synthesis and to be converted into other amino acids or turned into muscle mass. Some amino acids can actually be oxidized if we run out of carbohydrates, and that's a form of muscle breakdown. We want to avoid muscle breakdown by making sure our diet has sufficient carbohydrate. The chemist's view of proteins is as follows. Proteins are very complex structures. They're made up of amino acids, and an amino acid has a central carbon with a carboxylic acid group, that's the acid part, and an amine group, that's the amino group. And then each amino acid has a different side chain. There are 20 main groups of side chains, and those side chains can be divided into two different categories. The two categories are essential amino acids. These must be supplied by the diet, and non-essential amino acids, which are amino acids the body can synthesize from other amino acids. These are the essential amino acids here: histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, and valine. Most important of which is here. Leucine is an essential amino acid. We'll dive into why that's essential later on. And these are the non-essential amino acids. These are ones your body can synthesize. So you must ingest these essential amino acids. Some excellent protein sources: things like eggs, seeds and nuts, peanut butter, pork, chicken, meat, fish, excellent source of both fats and protein and amino acids, dairy products, and of course there are supplements, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. These are all high quality sources of amino acids, and we'll talk about the quality of protein sources here in a minute. Now let's bust one of the most common myths with regards to protein and vegan diets. The myth is that vegan and vegetarian protein sources do not provide either enough protein, enough amino acids, or are insufficient. They don't provide all the essential amino acids. While it is true that certain grains are low in amino acids, essential amino acids like lysine, or certain legumes are low in amino acids like methionine, the fact of the matter is if you are vegan or vegetarian, because you're eating a variety of grains, legumes, seeds, nuts, and vegetables throughout the day, any deficit is made up by the combination of foods that you're eating. So in fact, vegan and vegetarian diets are perfectly healthy and provide all the amino acids that an athlete needs. Now here would be an example. If you take a look at beans and rice, you might see lower methionine and tryptophan in the legumes, and lower isoleucine and lysine in the grains. Yet you have this tasty combination together, and you have all the amino acids. And this is typical of a vegan or vegetarian diet. They have all the amino acids and plenty of protein to support an athlete's lifestyle. Another common myth is that athletes need to have protein immediately after a hard workout. This is just plain wrong. In fact, immediately after a hard workout lasting 1 to 2 hours, you need carbohydrates. That should be your focus. You need carbohydrates immediately. Protein intakes can be spread throughout the day. In fact, protein intakes are better spread throughout the day than just focusing at one time, for example, just after a workout. You may need to make sure that you're eating your protein all day long and spreading it out as evenly as possible. Why is that? Well, it is true that after a workout, protein synthesis here increases. Here we're looking at rest and 3 hours after a workout. You can see that protein synthesis increases to a maximum level, and protein breakdown also increases to a maximum level. So this is actually occurring quite considerably later than the workout. It's an hour or two after the workout. So the best way to cover yourself to manage to have amino acids available in your system after workout is to eat protein throughout the day, approximately every 3 hours. And that would look like this. You'd wake up in the morning, you'd have a meal with some protein. Oftentimes athletes miss an opportunity to synthesize protein by not getting protein into their breakfast. Make sure you have a little bit of protein in breakfast. Around 25 grams would be enough. Then there'd be training, and then after training, you'd want to be having protein, digesting protein, so you have amino acids available to maximize muscle synthesis. And then that would go down, and then you'd boost your protein again in the early afternoon, perhaps at 1 o'clock, and then that would increase your muscle synthesis in the afternoon. Then you would boost your protein intake again at something like 4 p.m. And then that would boost your muscle resynthesis then. And then again, just before you go to sleep, you want some protein intake to again boost your overnight muscle synthesis. So this is how you want to think about ingesting protein if you're an athlete. Every 3 hours, 25 grams of protein. That will get you all the protein that you need. One of the most important times to get protein is before you go to sleep. There have been studies which have shown that ingesting about 25 grams of protein with some carbohydrate just before you go to sleep provides all the amino acids you need to rebuild and repair your muscles while you sleep. Sleep is one of the most important times for rebuilding and resynthesizing your muscles. So providing your body with the amino acids it needs just before you go to sleep is an excellent way to gain strength faster. One of the ways to do this would be to have some kind of pre-sleep drink, high protein drink. I like to have a chocolate soy milk with just a little bit of sugar in it. 28 grams of protein, 15 grams of carbohydrate. That's going to optimize your muscle building during your resistance training protocols. Another myth is that more protein leads to more strength. In fact, muscle strength or muscle gains, the muscle synthesis gains, plateaus around 25 grams of protein after exercise. And in fact, throughout the day, your muscle synthesis will plateau somewhere between 1.6 and 2 grams of protein per kilogram per day. So let's look at the graph, the data for that. You can see here that with protein intakes, this is looking at muscle breakdown, you can see that there's a break point here when your protein intakes reach approximately 1.65 grams per kilogram per day. Okay. That break point is pretty obvious. The upper 95% confidence interval, where 95% of people can be confident that they will get enough protein to prevent protein muscle breakdown and to support muscle synthesis. You can see that that number is about 1.8 grams of protein per kilogram per day. So for most athletes, exceeding 1.8 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day is not going to improve muscle synthesis or decrease muscle breakdown. So again, maximum 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Here we have it. Around 1.6 grams per kilogram per day would be enough for most people for bodybuilding, muscle building. The highest levels that are seen and have been reported, the highest levels that have ever been reported that benefit muscle building is 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram per body weight. Again, I would suggest that 2 grams is the maximum unless you're a power athlete doing workouts with very large sets of muscles, both upper and lower body. Then you might want to consider going up to 2.2 grams per kilogram protein per kilogram of body weight per day. This is, as you can see, a dose response from 0 in terms of protein synthesis up to around 20 grams of protein after a workout in terms of how much muscle you will build. But 40 grams is not better than 20 grams. So 20 to 25 grams of protein after a workout is the most you will ever need. And here are the protein guidelines. And here are the protein guides. The sedentary individuals only need 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, whereas strength athletes need between 1.4 and 2 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. Endurance athletes between 1.2 and 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And team sport athletes between 1.2 and 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. Just to reiterate, athletes need a maximum of 1.6 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram each day. How does protein affect performance if protein is taken during the workout? Sometimes you see people taking protein during workouts. In terms of time trial performance, there is no difference when protein is ingested, except for the fact that protein can make people sick during workouts. In terms of creatine kinase and recovery and soreness, there's no difference by ingesting protein during the workouts. This is quite different from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates enhance workout performance. Protein does not enhance workout performance, nor does it decrease soreness after your workout. What kind of protein should you choose to have? Should you be having animal proteins or plant proteins? Both provide all the amino acids you need to stimulate muscle synthesis. Both are easily digested, and both have amino acid compositions that will support muscle. So when we further look into this question, the most important part of plant and animal protein sources is really content of the amino acid leucine. The amino acid leucine is important to signal via the mTOR pathway. It signals for more synthesis of proteins, which means more muscle building. So we want to be looking at leucine content. Here we have leucine signaling via mTOR, signaling muscle protein synthesis. You'll notice that another molecule also synthesizes muscle protein or stimulates muscle protein synthesis. That's insulin, or insulin-like growth factor 1. Both stimulate the same pathways as the leucine and stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Now, insulin is released after ingesting carbohydrates. So you can now start to see that it's essential to have carbohydrates and leucine, protein containing leucine, at the same time. So if you have a little bit of carbohydrate with your protein containing leucine, both will work together to stimulate maximum muscle protein synthesis. Okay, so what sources contain the highest leucine content? Okay, we're going to look here at leucine content. We're looking at essential amino acids, the top bar, and leucine content, the lower bar. And you can see that the sources of protein with the highest leucine content here would be whey protein, but milk contains a good amount of leucine content. So maize and soy are slightly lower than whey and milk. So the animal sources are higher in terms of essential amino acids and higher in terms of leucine content than most of the plant sources. Nevertheless, you can just ingest a little bit extra of plant sources if those are the sources of protein that you want to go with. These are the general recommendations for muscle recovery after a hard workout. You want 20 to 25 grams of protein, maybe slightly more if you're a resistance-trained athlete that is using large muscle groups. But for most athletes, 20 to 25 grams of protein is the target. The leucine content is the most important. You want to aim for 3 grams of leucine. So if your protein source is a plant-based source, you may need 30 grams of protein to get your 3 grams of leucine. You also want to get 8 to 10 grams of the essential amino acids. Again, if you've got a plant-based source, you may want to be shooting slightly higher for your protein ingestion just to make sure you get all those amino acids, and spreading your protein ingestion over the day in 3-hour intervals, 3 to 4 hour intervals is going to be optimal, especially ingesting protein just prior to going to sleep, probably about half an hour before bedtime. So what about branched chain amino acids? I get asked this a lot. Branched chain amino acids are claimed to increase protein synthesis, improve your immune system, improve muscle growth or maintenance, improve cognitive function, help with faster recovery, reduce muscle soreness. In actual fact, whey protein will increase your muscle mass and your protein synthesis twice as much as branched chain amino acids. So save your money, don't buy expensive products with branched chain amino acids. You can just go with simple whey protein, and that is going to improve your muscle mass and your muscle strength gains by a factor of 2 compared to branched chain amino acids. Another amino acid that people talk about is beta-alanine. Now, beta-alanine is different. Beta-alanine is in fact used to synthesize carnosine, which is involved in fat metabolism and involved in buffering capacity in your muscles. It does improve sports performance, and it might be something you consider if your event is of intermediate distance, something like 1 to 200 meters of swimming, something like 4 kilometers of time trialing, 2,000 meters of rowing, 800-meter running. So something in that sort of 1 minute to 5 minute range. Beta-alanine has this important buffering capacity, which can help your performance over about 1 to 2 minutes of effort. If your event is longer than that, or if your sport is longer than that, say 90 minutes soccer game or an 80-minute basketball game, then beta-alanine is of questionable utility to you. Yeah. You should know that to supplement with beta-alanine, you need between 3 and 6 grams a day. You want to divide that dose, so it's pretty complicated to ingest. It's less effective if you're well trained, and it has this weird side effect that causes parasynesthesia, which is a tingling sensation in the skin. I've tried it. You definitely get this tingling sensation. I don't like it. but it might help your performance if your event is in that sort of 1 to 5 minute range. In terms of protein sources, let's compare milk with various milk substitutes. Milk, cow's milk, contains around 8 to 9 grams of protein. Almond milk, coconut milk, other kinds of nut milks are very poor in terms of protein content. Soy milk, on the other hand, is the closest we have to cow's milk in terms of protein content. So if you're lactose intolerant and can't drink cow's milk, soy milk is a reasonable choice. In fact, that's my favorite choice. This just illustrates that exact point. Looking at cow's milk, goat's milk and sheep's milk are very high in protein as well, so these are good choices if you like them. If you are lactose intolerant, of course, all of these are out, so you would be looking at the bottom here, and really the best choice in terms of protein is going to be soy milk. Soy milk is an excellent choice for most athletes, particularly those athletes that cannot ingest dairy products. Masters athletes, it's essential for Masters athletes to ingest protein. They need to focus more on protein because Masters athletes tend to lose muscle mass every year. Starting from age 50, higher intakes of protein are a good idea, about 0.4 grams per kilogram of body weight 4 to 5 times daily. That's going to end up being essentially 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So Masters athletes need to ingest protein essentially at the same level as the highest resistance trained athletes. Good sources are milk, yogurt, and nuts, and again, aiming for at least 28 grams of protein before sleep, perhaps as much as 40 grams of protein per sleep, will enhance muscle synthesis overnight. Okay, quickly, a summary. How much protein do we need to optimize our muscle protein synthesis and to optimize our strength gains for our athletic training? You need to know that protein, amino acids from protein stimulate muscle protein synthesis in a dose-dependent fashion. So increasing muscle protein synthesis goes with increasing protein intakes right up to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight at maximum. It's maximally stimulated here by these doses of 0.25 to 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram per meal. Leucine is the essential amino acid that switches on muscle protein synthesis, and it does so in the presence of insulin, which can be released from carbohydrate intakes. Muscle protein breakdown is suppressed with protein intake, so protein intakes with insulin suppresses muscle protein breakdown. Daily intakes of at least 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram per day seems to be optimal for building muscle. 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram per day is the maximum that will yield muscle building benefit. Beyond that, you're wasting your money, and you will not build any further muscle mass. In terms of muscle protein supplements, whey protein is made from milk. It is acidified, milk is acidified and coagulates, and the curds are separated from the whey. The curds float, and the whey, the liquid fraction, is separated. The whey is the proteinaceous part, and it's often made into supplements, whey protein powder. Those powders come in different forms. Whey protein concentrates, these are the least processed. They have between 30 and 80% protein. Whey protein isolates, about 90% of the protein is 90% of the product is protein, and whey protein hydrolysates. These are pre-digested to make amino acid digestion faster. Frankly, your body is extremely good at extracting protein from whey protein concentrates or isolates. You do not need to have expensive hydrolysates. So find a product that you like. Whey protein is a really good choice, and a whey protein concentrate is going to be absolutely fine and will save you a dramatic amount of money compared to whey protein isolates or whey protein hydrolysates. And your body does not know the difference between a whey protein concentrate, an isolate, or a hydrolysate. In terms of amino acid composition, you can see that whey protein has more essential amino acids than casein and soy. Whey protein has more leucine content than casein and soy. Whey protein has more isoleucine and valine than whey protein and casein protein and soy. So whey protein is a really good choice. However, when we look at protein synthesis after exercise, whey protein is the most effective. Casein is the least effective, but soy is also very, very effective. And you can, when this was studied using equal amounts of protein, you can bump up soy protein synthesis by just ingesting a little bit extra, perhaps 10% more soy protein. So if you don't like whey protein and you want to choose a plant-based protein, having about 10% extra soy protein would be an excellent choice.